This is the blue-haired lawyer. He is the most competent and highly paid attorney in Springfield, representing Mr. Burns for his many scandals and misdeeds. However, he has numerous other clients, including Homer, Bart, Sideshow Bob, Krusty, the Disney Corporation, and even served as U.S. prosecutor. When not in court, he spends his time issuing cease and desist orders for various copyright infringements. Also, he has blue hair. This is the history of Blue-Haired Lawyer. Hey, I know I just did one of these, but you all wanted this guy so badly, and he'd been in the mix for so long, that I guess it's Law & Order time on the channel. Also, I've always loved the Blue-Haired Lawyer. I don't know what it is about him. Is it Dan Castellaneta's vocal performance? Is it those big glasses and sarcastic demeanor? Is it his aura of mystery? This guy has gone digging around in others' personal lives, so let's see if Blue-Haired Lawyer has any skeletons in his closet. Any accusations herein are alleged do not constitute defamation of character. The real Jims is not a lawyer, and this video does not contain legal advice. Now let us begin. Blue-Haired Lawyer's first appearance was in Season 2's Bart Gets Hit by a Car. We get the first Lionel Hutz, the first Blue-Haired Lawyer, the first bullshit marriage crisis. Okay, the second one. Anyway, he is introduced as one of Mr. Burns' many attorneys, serving as lead counsel during the trial. He reminds the judge how rich and important Burns is, shushes his client, and questions him on the stand. When things go poorly, he is quick to recommend a settlement. However, in the end, he wins the case by getting Marge on the stand, who ruins everything. Well, you can't blame them for trying. According to DVD commentaries, his voice is based on Roy Cohn, and his design on Charles Lane. I can definitely see the visual design aspect, but after listening to Roy Cohn, I don't really hear it. Blue-Haired Lawyer is much higher pitched and nasally. But given Cohn's ruthless reputation, and some of his, notorious clients, I get why they're often linked. Throughout the Gene and Reese era, Blue-Haired Lawyer would appear in all the major court cases. In Bart the Murderer, he serves as part of the prosecution, asking Fat Tony who the real leader of the Mafia was. But it seems like this other guy is the lead prosecutor? Weird. When it's discovered that Homer is shooting blanks, he suggests they cash settlement of a couple thou, and gives the nod for Homer's big award ceremony. Blue-Haired Lawyer is so unflappable in this appearance, sipping coffee through Mr. Burns' somewhat unusual rant against his lawyers. Usually, Mr. Burns is happy bragging about his 10 high-priced lawyers. In Season 4, he gains a secondary role as the copyright police with his 2 goons. He busts Skinner for infringing on Disney's trademarks and gets a kick in the chest for his efforts. Copyright expired. In New Kid on the Block, he represents the sea captain against Homer's all-you-can-eat lawsuit. It doesn't go well. First, they bring in the letters to Santa instead of his shrimp evidence. Then he cuts off Marge's testimony after one question and lets Lionel Hutz, of all people, upstage him. Once again, he advises a settlement. In Marge in Chains, he acts as prosecutor again, this time being so confident he can waste the jury's time rating the super hunks. God, he is so good in this one. Let the record show that the witness made the drinky motion. The only other thing I found in this era was in the second Treehouse of Horror, where he's having dinner with this very busty lady. More like the blue-haired Rizzler, am I right? The David Merkin era was largely more of the same. He still works for Mr. Burns, conferring with him and drawing up a new will. He represents Sideshow Bob at his parole hearing, asking how many of them are thinking of killing Selma right now, and inquiring about Bob's foreign language tattoo. It's not surprising he represents Bob, as we discover in Season 6, he is part of the inner circle of the Republican Party. In Lady Bouvier's Lover, he plays the copyright police again, confronting Grandpa about his unauthorized imitations of Charlie Chaplin and Jimmy Durante. However, laying down and dying is acceptable. We also gotta talk about this guy, Freddie Quimby's lawyer. This guy sounds an awful lot like Blue-Haired Lawyer and conducts himself similarly, but obviously is a totally different character design, so I don't know what's up with this guy. I guess this is the Blue-Haired Lawyer for the high-powered Democrats in town. His Oakley and Weinstein era is mostly dominated by The Day the Violence Died, representing Roger Myers Jr. He presents the Steamboat Itchy evidence and lists off the other characters, brown-nosed bear, disgruntled goat, flatulent fox, rich Uncle Skeleton, and Dinah Dog. Needless to say, this is his greatest appearance. I love his over-the-top sarcasm over their destroyed evidence, how he pops in with those objections, even how he facepalms at the very end. Another loss against Lionel Hutz. How humiliating. Other than that, it's minor appearances in Season 8. He's the second person to say bye to The Simpsons for some reason. He continues his work for Roger Myers, confirming Poochie's death certificate adheres to all applicable laws. And in The Old Man and Elisa, he serves as one of Burns' yes-man financial advisors. I like how he totally disappears when things go south. Blue-haired lawyer jumped off that sinking ship. This might be foreshadowing for the Mike Scully era, seasons 9 through 12, as blue-haired lawyer mostly disappeared from the show. A lawless time, that Scully era. Like, look at Lisa the Skeptic. He's ready to go with this science versus religion trial, but immediately gets cut off. He only gets 2 other major appearances in this era overall. In The Joy of Sect, he represents the Movementarians, barging into the studio, accusing Kent Brockman of slander, and quickly earning a settlement. In The Great Money Caper, he's back as prosecutor in the sham trial against Willie. The entire time, he leads the witness, describing things as fuzzy like Willie's beard, and hazy like the moors of Scotland. Then straight up calling him Carjacker Willie. Since the whole thing was a setup, I'm guessing he was instructed to be as unfair as possible, but perhaps the Machiavellian Lisa banked on this. Blue-haired lawyer does come along for their Super Bowl trip in season 10. Somewhat disappointedly, he doesn't get name-dropped with Squeaky Voice Teen and the other unnamed characters. I also notice he totally disappears after the phony tickets incident. Like he's not in the jail cell right here. My theory is, blue-haired lawyer jumped ship once again and bought from the scalper. There's also this black-haired lawyer from Behind the Laughter who represents Marge. That's how you know this episode is non-canonical, the black hair. When Al Jean returned to the show in season 13, so did the rule of law, and we got the blue-haired lawyer more regularly again. He represents the Mother Loving Corporation in the Sugar lawsuit, despite his client threatening to kill him and everyone else. As prosecutor, he puts the screws to Homer in yet another sham murder trial. He unsuccessfully defends the church against Homer's lawsuit. He does, however, successfully get Bart emancipated from his parents. This is definitely my favorite blue-haired lawyer appearance of this era, with his "you wah?" screw the audience joke, him serving a subpoena with a side of not too crispy bacon, and letting the record show he pulled the pockets out of the little doll. In Dude, Where's My Ranch, he's back to his copyright police role, telling the Simpsons they can only sing songs from the public domain. He suggests Homer write his own song, but don't use the Disney-owned notes A-flat or G natural. So really, it's the blue-haired lawyer's fault why this episode even happens. You notice, blue-haired lawyer isn't really a Burns-centric character these days. Sure, he prosecutes Mona Simpson, with Burns by his side, and serves as King Herod's advisor in the Christmas special, but their only major pairing in this era was in Treehouse of Horror 16. He questions Burns' legal grounds for killing people, lays out an ironclad argument in writing, and gets blown away. He is much more likely to represent other characters these days. He defends Homer in his committee testimony, whispering to plead the fifth, and Homer thinking he is coming on to him. He calls Homer a moron and leaves. He represents Krusty, informing Marge that her popsicle sculpture infringes on his likeness. He represents the Mulk, asking for a change of venue. He prosecutes Lurleen Lumpkin, objecting to the speculation of the trends of country music. He even has a part-time job as a field agent for the Department of Commerce, busting the kids' lemonade stand. Unlike Eddie and Lou, he refuses a bribe. And finally, in another Treehouse of Horror, he's facilitating even more murders. He hears Homer is good at killing celebrities and introduces these ad men. Now that we've reached the HD era, it's clear that the show has been utilizing him more regularly, but limited in these small functional cameos. It's probably not surprising that this guy has never had a proper spotlight. But there is one episode where he plays a pretty key role as the framing device for the story. In season 23, they do a parody of The Social Network, in which he questions Lisa on the stand about her Springface social media website, helping to set up each flashback. He argues that she started Springface because she had no friends, and delivers a savage burn to Ask Jeeves. But most importantly, we discover he is the self-published author of The 60-Foot Baby. Now, from what I can tell, this is the only place we've seen his name written down. It's extremely possible I missed it somewhere, in some random list, in some random episode, but this is the only one that I found. He is generally called the blue-haired lawyer by the entire fan community, so I'm going to continue that trend, but we might technically be using the wrong name. Hell, he could be named Love 'em or Burn 'em if we go by that one episode. Name confusion aside, we do see the blue-haired lawyer go back to his roots more often in the HD era, as Burns' lawyer. In season 22, he pushes Mr. Burns to quickly sign his new will, as they're in his half hour of mental competence. And demented. Hi-ho Silver! In season 23, he gets dropped through the trapdoor after informing Burns of his health insurance liabilities and legal fees. In another episode, he covers Homer's ears, urging Burns to buy Homer off with a vacation. In yet another committee hearing, he is once again whispering to his client to evade all their questions. When Smithers leaves, he urges Burns to get him back and is ordered to write a personal note to him. He explains that Burns' new trapdoor has to be brought up to code and has opened him up to a lawsuit. This time, Burns gets dropped through it. He writes up a new employment contract for Smithers, stating he can't be included in wagers going forward. And, during Burns' burger enterprise, he threatens his new spokesperson to adhere to their approved statements. I like modern Simpsons' mix of blue-haired lawyer, getting him back together with Mr. Burns more often, but still letting him represent other corporate interests or the US government. He serves as prosecutor a couple more times, accusing these goths of being witches, and unsuccessfully trying to convict Krusty for attempted murder of Homer. He also represents the state lottery, defending their usage of Bleeding Gums' likeness, and quizzing Lisa about what she really knows about him. No further questions. In his private practice, we've seen him successfully defend Snake in court, who will have his money to him in an hour. He represents the MPAA in their piracy suit against Homer. Homer actually hires him when Marge ends up in prison again. He's able to get her out on a technicality because Homer never filed a birth certificate for Bart and isn't legally their son. He represents Fat Tony in this documentary, doing the whispering routine again. Fat Tony, always self-aware, calls him out on it. He's the legal counsel for the reality show The Amazing Place, warning Homer and Marge about the $1 million penalty, or death penalty in Georgia, if they break their non-disclosure statement. And finally, in Dogtown, we get his greatest blunder. He represents Gil in his lawsuit against Homer about hitting him with his car. However, things take a turn when it's revealed Homer swerved to avoid killing a dog. Blue-haired lawyer argues, surely a human being's life is worth more than a dog, and then proceeds to list off all the cutest things dogs love to do, thereby enchanting the jury and turning them against his client. Shortly after, dogs take over the town because of this trial. Unfortunately, they never really show off that much about his private life or personal interest in these later years. He seems to be one of the owners of this UFC knockoff thing, although this other guy seems to be the face of the organization. Personally, I'm disappointed. They robbed us of the Marge versus blue-haired lawyer rumble we had all been waiting for. I'm also disappointed that, after watching him tear down so many of our favorite characters, we never dug up any dirt on this guy. Maybe he's the one guy in Springfield without any skeletons in his... Wait a minute, what's this? So in season 35, they visit this clinic that does immersion therapy, where people can face their fears. And this is blue-haired lawyers. Is he afraid of germs? No. He's afraid of rotisserie chicken. Okay, I have so many questions, and most of them aren't about chicken. Why is the toilet where he's most comfortable? Why? Why the toilet? I get that this is a screw the audience joke, that's why toilet was picked, but it does leave me wondering what is going on in this guy's bathroom. Ah, thank you, Lisa Gets an F1. I forgive you for Millhouse Yoshi. Unlike Lou last time, I really don't mind that blue-haired lawyer never got that much character development. He doesn't need a spotlight episode. I could see him as an antagonist in like a Homer becomes a lawyer story, but we don't need that much from him. He got a little unlucky with Lionel Hutz departing the show and then Mr. Burns falling off in the past few years. Those are two heavy-hitting characters comedically, and blue-haired lawyer manages to hold his own and improve their scenes by his own merits. I love his dry sarcasm, effortlessly mocking whatever dumb evidence is put before him. He's got some of that comic book guy energy, but from a more stuffy corporate angle. I like that The Simpsons has a character to represent the class difference in Springfield. That blue-haired lawyer is that high-priced creep that regular Joes can't afford, who will swoop in and exploit some secret loophole for our ultra-wealthy overlords. As good as he is in that Bart episode, there is a part of me that says, The Simpsons shouldn't be able to afford this guy. But it makes sense, given Hutz's departure, that they need him in the mix more. I'm not gonna complain. Also, I will say, in laying out his legal career, I'm not that impressed by his record. He's lost a lot of cases. Sometimes not his fault, but sometimes embarrassingly so. 'Tis the life of a Simpsons antagonist. Let me know in the comments what you think of blue-haired lawyer and your second favorite moment after dinner dog. Dinner dog. Dinner dog. I just can't imitate it, but it's one of my favorite line deliveries in the show. Also, sorry about my extra nasally voice in this video. Been fighting through a cold while working on this one. As always, let me know who you'd like to see for the next Simpsons Histories. In addition to Lunch Lady Doris and Ralph Wiggum last time, there's an awful lot of buzz behind Disco Stew, Comic Book Guy, and Mr. Largo. Lots of good candidates, so let your voice be heard. As always, thanks for watching.